Welcome back, beautiful souls, to another episode of SoulCast. Today is a special one because we are honoring World Mental Health Day, a time where the world collectively pauses to recognize the importance of our emotional and psychological well-being. Before we begin, I want to invite you to take a deep breath with me. Inhale, peace. Exhale, release. Let's settle into this moment together, okay? Today, we're going to talk about the story behind this day, what mental health looks like in today's society, and how we can begin improving the ways we care for ourselves and each other. And throughout this episode, I'll share a few reflections from my own journey, moments that taught me about surrender, resilience, and compassion. Let's get into it. All right. So let's talk about the history and purpose of World Mental Health Day. World Mental Health Day was first celebrated in 1992, founded by the World Federation for Mental Health. The goal was simple yet profound: to raise awareness about mental health issues and mobilize efforts to support it worldwide, y'all, worldwide. Every year there's a new theme. This year's theme is mental health is a universal human right. A reminder that mental wellness isn't a luxury. It's not something reserved for those who can afford therapy or time off. It's a basic need, y'all. Something every human deserves access to, no matter where they come from or what they've been through. Mental health is just as essential as physical health, yet for so long it's been ignored, stigmatized, or even silenced. Days like this are meant to change that narrative. They give us permission to talk, to feel, and to heal openly. I remember when I first became aware of my own mental health, and it was back in 2020. And I went through a worldwide of just chaos, I would say. I'm going to use the word chaos. And to be honest with you, I got tired of my own stuff. I was like, something's got to give. Like, I can't keep going through stuff like this. I can't keep blaming everybody else. Something's going on within me, and I can't be crashing out, or I can't be obsessive about the way I want my life to be or how people should act in my life because they're a part of my life, right? I realized I was really struggling and I didn't know like what that meant. Like, first of all, it's not that there was something wrong with me, but I feel so disconnected from who I really am and who I want to be and what does that look like. And I realized that I don't want to keep feeling like this. I need to care for myself. I want to be at ease. I want to have peace. And I don't want to feel this anxious all the time. I don't want to feel depressed and have all these mood swings all the time. And today, mental health has become part of our everyday conversation, which is progress, right? But the truth is, we're still facing a silent epidemic, okay? In today's world, anxiety, depression, burnout, and trauma are more common than ever, especially in younger generations and marginalized communities. We live in an age of constant connectivity, but that doesn't always mean connection. Social media, unrealistic comparisons, economic pressure, loss, and uncertainty have left many of us feeling really unseen, overwhelmed, and disconnected from our true self. Like, honestly, we often wear our productivity like armor, hiding the exhaustion behind a smile, right? But emotional wellness doesn't come from pretending we're fine, y'all. It comes from acknowledging what actually hurts and tending to it gently. Like, I remember when I was overwhelmed and burnt out, where I go back to this day, like all the time to people, like, I was going to school full time. I was a dance major. I ended up being on a dance team. And then I was working one full-time job, one part-time job, school full-time, all this on the bus. And how like burnout or like feeling overwhelmed looks like to me is that I shut down and I become very irritable. I get very annoyed so easy. I get antisocial. I don't talk to anybody. I don't want to be around anyone and I isolate myself. Like, and back then I used to call that like, oh, it's my solitude. I would rather be by myself. No, was me being overwhelmed and I didn't know what to do. And a lot of the times, how I would go about that and like complimenting that or getting that out, I wasn't aware that it was like a problem back then, but I would go out and drink and do all these things to make it okay and make it bearable. But I realized that was when I needed the most help. And what I realized over time, fast forward, I didn't still understand what that looked like. And so when COVID happened, right, I lost my job just like everyone else. I lost my housing. I don't know if everybody lost their housing, but I lost my housing and I was in the Bay Area. I was away from home. And so I literally felt like I've lost everything that made me essentially me. And when all that stripped away, I just didn't know what to do. I was in a terrible relationship. I was doing all the crazy things and I didn't want to accept my new reality. I am no longer in that same position. I am no longer that girl who has this job and is working her ass off and going to school and, getting her degree. Like all those things defined me. And when I didn't have any of that, like it kind of just bruised my ego. I'm sure it bruised a lot of people's ego when they face these realities too. I know I'm not alone in this. However, I did realize that I needed to go back home. So I took my steps to go back home and really just ask for help. One thing about me is that I do not ask for help. I don't allow myself to ask for help, and that it was my biggest downfall. And so that was one small step that I started to begin realigning with myself and healing and growing. And it was hard. It was hard. There are so many layers to what impacts our mental well being today, like social media, where comparison and perfection culture can quietly erode self worth because you're comparing yourself to other people and you don't know what their lives look like behind the screen, but that's all you see, right? There's financial stress, like the rising costs, this job insecurity, and then the burnout. There's global instability from climate anxiety to community violence. We're constantly absorbing collective pain, guys. Like, another thing that we're going through is isolation. Even surrounded by people, many of us still feel alone, especially emotionally. I don't know about y'all, but that's sometimes how I be feeling. And there's also unhealed trauma. So, childhood experiences, generational wounds, grief we've tucked away. And then there's a lack of accessible support. Many people don't have affordable access to therapy or these safe spaces or even the vocabulary to describe what they're feeling. That's why awareness isn't just enough. We need action, compassion, and systemic change. For me, grief, I don't want to say it's entirely new, and I also don't want to say it's been in my life for a long time. However, I lost an uncle, and then I lost a friend in 2014. And then I lost my brother, which is probably like one of my biggest losses in my life. And I lost my brother July 16th, 2022. So it's been a little over 3 years now, and it still hits me. And then from then, I lost an aunt. And then I also lost my grandma. And my grandma, oh, bless her soul. Like she was one of my favorite people. You're not supposed to have favorite people, but her and my brother were my favorite people in this world. And I, you know, I don't get to walk the same walk with them anymore. And it it impacts you and you don't realize how much we take things for granted, right? Like those times when they want to hang out and you're like, no, I just want to be by myself, or no, I want to go hang out with my friends, or no. And then, like, they're gone, and you don't have that ability to do those same things with those people anymore. And it makes you feel lonely, and your life isn't the same anymore. It changes everything. It triggers things inside of you too. Like for me, it triggered my fear of abandonment and loss. And like, I don't, I don't have any control anymore. So like, it really just forced me to regain connections. And also work like it triggered my attachment style too, where like I'm instantly trying to attach and I don't want to lose you and I don't want to like I'll do this and I do this and I do this, going against myself. And what I really needed was to just find connections that allowed me to breathe and feel the grief in a natural way. And that's where you find your community. I ended up going to a grief support group. I also got a grief counselor and at the time was already seeing a psychiatrist. So when I went through that loss, I was like, you know what? I need to put myself in a space where like there are going to be people who understand, because those who haven't lost a loved one or experienced significant like loss like that won't have a deeper understanding of what I'm experiencing. And that's my belief. That's just overall how I feel. And so I had this space where I was able to feel how I felt unapologetically, without shame, without judgment, and with people who just got it, with people who just understood. And that was very healing for me. So, like, how can we build a world where mental wellness is prioritized, not just treated when it breaks? Here are a few ways we can start improving our systems and communities. One, normalize therapy. Make it as common and accessible as seeing a doctor. Two, invest in community care. So let's support programs that bring healing spaces to schools, workplaces, or local organizations. Three, train educators and leaders to recognize signs of distress early. Four, let's create safe, stigma free spaces, especially for men, people of color, and youth who are often discouraged from speaking about emotions. Number five, let's promote holistic approaches. Hear me out. Mindfulness, movement, creative expression, and connection as part of wellness, not alternatives. The goal isn't to fix people. We can't just fix people, right? It's to build a culture where no one feels broken for needing support. I remember when I was in high school and I had experienced my sexual trauma, and I was alone. I didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to. I didn't feel like people saw me and heard me. They just knew me as this girl who was mad all the time or who was very emotional, who couldn't, who couldn't take a joke, or I was the girl who just held it all together and who know how to have a good time. Or there was two extremes. There was moments where we'd get drunk. Yes, in high school. Mind your business. And I'd boo-hoo cry. And people were like, girl, what is wrong? I'd never used to cry in front of people. And then when I would get under some influences, I would break down, sob, and cry. And then I forget the next day because I was drunk, right? I really wish that the guidance counselors or the counselors in my high school were more aware and knew how to spot when a child is experiencing some type of turmoil or distress, or they're depressed or anxious. Or I wish that the educators in schools understood or paid more attention. These schools are overfilled with very little amount of teachers, and how are the teachers going to be able to pay attention to each and every kid? And how is the counselor going to meet with every kid? So I wish there was a therapist, a life coach maybe in high school. They made Planned Parenthood a free source for teenagers, right? Like, why couldn't we have therapists or a community based mental wellness? Because therapy and psychiatry, it was looked down upon. It was frowned upon. Like, they're like, "Oh, if you gotta go there, you're crazy." And it's like, well, why do we use the word crazy? Like, um, so I think that, having those community-based networking events would have been very nice, or having those opportunities in schools where that was an option. Instead of having your extracurricular activity or advisory class, you'd have a life coaching therapy session amongst other people, support groups, things of that sort. I believe SoulCast and my own healing journey has become a part of that mission of creating safe spaces for others to heal, because, for one, I am putting my own experience out there, right? I'm letting people know what I've went through and what I'm currently going through, and sharing my insight and my findings and what has worked for me, and the interviews that I do and the conversations I have can allow other people to understand that they're not alone. My vulnerability is my power. That is one thing that I have learned. Like, all these emotions that I feel, all the sensitivity that I experience about other people and paying attention to other people, like, that is my power. And being able to communicate and share all this information to others is how I'm a part of that mission. Of course, I would love to do more, and that's going to be a work in progress. It's going to be, there's methods to how we're going to get to that success story. However, the small wins matter too. And for me, this is everything. This means everything. It heals me to heal others. It makes me feel just as good to know that I can help some other individual not be alone, because we're not. Vulnerability is a power. Let's take a deep breath together. Inhale. Feel your chest expand. And then exhale. Release whatever you've been holding on to. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to repeat these affirmations after me. You can do it out loud, or you can just keep it quietly to your heart. My mental health matters as much as my physical health. I am allowed to rest and ask for help. Healing takes time, and I honor my pace. I am not my pain. I am the person learning to rise from it. I am worthy of peace, softness, and understanding. Let these words settle in your spirit. You are doing your best. You are not alone. As we close this SoulCast episode, I want to remind you, mental health awareness isn't just about one day. It's about creating a lifestyle of mindfulness, balance, and compassion, y'all. Check in with yourself this week. Ask someone how they're really doing. Like, ask how they're really doing and just listen. Reach out to someone, anyone, if you need support. Healing is not a linear path, but every step you take towards self-awareness is a step towards peace. Thank you for spending this time with me, y'all. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who might need a gentle reminder that they're not alone too, okay? Until next time, stay grounded, stay kind, and keep listening to your soul.